Isn't this place awesome? When they invited me here, I had absolutely no idea what they were doing. It's just incredible. A non-profit organisation helping people to live better lives. Obviously really care, looking to serve the community. I just want to give them a round of applause if that would be okay, you know, just for bringing us all here. Absolutely amazing, thank you. So, we're here to learn about energy. Before I get into that, if I could just make a couple of invitations to you. One of them is to invite you to really be as present as possible during this whole talk. So really try and stay out of your head, out of your thoughts, be in the moment, really enjoy it, enjoy the experience of being around all these other people who have a similar interest, and really try and stay with us throughout the whole thing. Anyone who has problems with that? Anyone else struggle with that sometimes, staying present all the time? Yeah, okay. Yeah, me too. So anyone who struggles with that, we're going to learn a couple of techniques to actually help us do that. So we're actually going to practice them throughout. And the other thing I'd like to invite you to do is to really participate. So I'm not one of those people who's like, no, wait. If you have a question, just throw your hand up. I need to repeat it so they can catch it on the mic, and then I'll do my best to answer it. Even though I have a very good idea of what I'm going to talk about, I have at least 10 hours worth of material about energy to give you. So what I'm actually going to go through today is partly going to be based on what it is that you really want to hear about and what's of interest to you. So, you know, if something's not clear, or if there's something that's really important to you, put your hand up and we'll clarify it and we'll go through it together. So those two invitations sound good? Okay? Yeah? Excellent. Wonderful. So let's start with learning about energy. Who already has an abundance of energy? Just put your hand up so I see. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Okay, good. So I'm not wasting my time here. That's great. Who here really struggles with energy and is willing to admit it? Wonderful. Okay, great. Come to the right place. I come from a place of really having struggled with energy personally myself as well throughout most of my life. From being a very small child, you know, it's not like once I grew up I had a problem with it. I always had a problem with energy. I tried boosting it with sugar and sweets when I was younger. Tried boosting it with cigarettes and coffee and all the rest of it when I was older. And I kind of realised I was on a losing battle, you know, like no matter what I did, my energy was just going down and down and down. There was less I was capable of doing. I felt worse and worse, had more and more symptoms. And so creating this whole system, which I'm about to lay out for you, wasn't so much a matter of, ooh, you know, I want to do something. It was just out of desperation, trying to find something that actually works for someone who is chronically, completely deficient in energy. I tried a lot of things. I tried the whole giving up all stimulant drug thing, you know, was good, but actually didn't work at all. Just made me feel worse. I tried the whole eating well thing, being a vegan, or even eating kind of like high protein diets, all those kind of things didn't work, made me feel worse overall. The raw food thing definitely worked and helped me, but I must say it wasn't the biggest shift in my life in terms of my health. So the understandings I'm going to lay out for you today were the biggest shifts, and these are the reasons why a lot of health experts come to me, people like Shazi Osama or Sarah Best or whoever, or just, you know, health practitioners you haven't heard of, but people who are qualified in like 6 different fields, but they still, you know, can't get out of bed in the morning. You know, it's because these distinctions, which come from the East, are very different from the ones that we have in the West. So they are not better, but they help to complete the whole puzzle of health. So even if you've been eating well for a long time or exercising and all the rest of it and you're still struggling, you're going to have some aha moments today, like, now I get it. Okay, so be open to those. So energy, the kind of the structure which I use is called Taoist. Does anyone know what a Taoist is or what that means? One person, kind of, okay. In the East, there is a 5,000-year written transmission of healing called Taoist medicine, which has recently, in the last 1,000 or so years, become TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. So what's so wonderful about the Taoists is their philosophy is very much to be in harmony with nature. And so rather than where a lot of people, they try and, like scientists, they try and say, things must be like this because this is the way I think it is. A Taoist attitude is really just to be present, look at how things actually are, and then draw conclusions based on that. So I'd say the Taoists were the world's first empiricists, the first scientists, true scientists, who actually looked at the way things are and made conclusions based on that. And because they've got a 5,000-year history, they know what they're talking about with the things that I'm about to lay out for you. It's not like, you know, I dreamed this up last week in my bedroom. This is like an ancient system of understanding long life. The other thing which is really relevant about the Taoists is that they didn't believe in an afterlife, which of course is probably different from the Christian community over here. But the reason why that's relevant is because they believe all that matters is right now. So extending your lifespan for as long as possible so you can be alive as long as possible, one of their fundamental things that they focused on, right? Longevity. So living as long as possible, living as present and as high energy as possible, and living in alignment with the flow of life, which we could easily call being in alignment with God, was the focus of the Taoists. And they looked at the mechanics of actually making that happen. And the mechanics for them were being aware of energy. Okay? So with no further ado, I'm going to write down the types of energy we'll learn about. Now, from a Taoist point of view, there were 3 treasures. Okay? 3 types of energy that you want to cultivate. You want to get as much of these as possible. So everything else is about balance. You want to get into balance. But with these 3 treasures, you want to get as much of these 3 types of energy as possible. Now we'll go through what will happen if you have a lot, what will happen if you don't have a lot, and you'll recognize yourself in these, and you'll recognize your other people in this, and you recognize your family and your friends. You go, oh, that person's got none of that energy. That explains it. You know? And then we're going to talk briefly as well about what we can do to actually get the energy up. Now bear in mind, like I say, I could easily talk about this 10 hours. We've got 1, including question and answers. So I'll give you references and where you can find out more about each piece. And if there's anything that needs clarifying I'm not being clear about, let me know. Any questions come up so far? Wonderful. So 3 types of energy. There's one which you've probably heard of, if not from this point of view that I'm talking about now, but you're all familiar with it. And I like to call this everyday energy. And the Taoists called this Qi, or Qi, with a Q. Now in Western medicine, we would call this ATP, okay, or biophotons is another word for it. Biophotons is the light energy which all living beings emit. Anyone ever seen the pictures in raw food books, like David Wolf's book, where the superfoods are like suns, and then the cooked food is like almost nothing? So that's biophotons. You get more qi in living foods, obviously, which is why that's one of the focuses of being truly healthy. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Anyone here kind of medical degree or anything like that? Recognize that? Okay, sorry, anyone here heard of that? Okay, so ATP is cellular energy. Basically, health is all down to the health of your cells. You have around 80 trillion cells. Each one of those needs to be producing enough ATP, otherwise you'll not have enough energy to get through the day. And if you don't have enough energy to get through the day, that's when you start getting into your reserves and your backup, and we'll go into that in a minute. So ATP is true energy. It's actually where matter meets energy. Okay, where matter meets energy. The whole E equals MC squared thing, anyone familiar with that? You know, there is a link between the two, between matter and energy. ATP is where matter meets energy. So what does that mean? It means literally where food meets you moving or you thinking. So really crucial. ATP. So most people, when they think of energy or everyday energy, they think of calories. Anyone familiar with that term? I need some more calories. Yeah, everyone? Okay. Really, everyday energy is ATP. Your body goes through from calories to ATP. Your body has to use a lot of energy. A lot of energy. Who here has heard of scientifically validated, verified ways to extend lifespan significantly? No? Okay. There's one. There is one. It's not raw food. It's not superfoods. Anyone familiar with the only scientifically validated method to extend your lifespan significantly? It is calorie reduction. Calorie reduction, not necessarily food reduction. You can eat a big load of salad, which is only 100 calories. It's calorie reduction. So why is that? Because it takes the body a lot of strain, and in fact a lot of reserve energy, which we're going over in a minute, to turn calories into ATP. So, Qi, ATP, where does it come from? Let's do that next. Qi or ATP. Where do we get it from? Anyone want to participate? Guess, where do we get ATP from? Oxygen and food. Yeah, absolutely right. So this relates to 2 organ systems that the Taoists talk about. And that's the lungs, which is your oxygen, and is what they call the spleen, which is your digestive system. Lungs and spleen. Lungs and spleen. Can anyone guess how much of their energy comes from breathing and how much of their energy comes from food and digesting? Anyone want to have a guess at the ratio?
80-20.
Which way?
80 from air and 20 from food.
80 from air and 20 from food. That's pretty accurate. Yeah, that's great. Did you know that already?
No.
That's good. There we go.
I don't know about the calories for that.
That is about right, and that's what the ancient Taoists said as well. They said that, you know, the equivalent of 2,000 calories would come from food, equivalent of about 8,000 calories would come from the air you breathe. So can we see straight away where the raw food movement, if practiced in isolation, could have a major downfall in terms of energy? Right? If you're eating raw food, you're breathing in a very bad way, in a very stuffy room, you're going to feel worse than someone who lives and works outside in nature and drinks beer and smokes Marlboros and eats meat. Often, right? Not necessarily, but often. So this is something that we need to be aware of. Breath, lungs. And with both of those, there's basically two key factors you want to look at. You want to look at the quality, and you want to look at the way. So with your lungs, with your breathing, you want to look at the quality of the air you're breathing. Very, very, very important. Who here spends a lot of time in a building without a window open? Are these the same people struggling with energy by any chance? Quite possibly. A lot more people, you know, I honour you for putting your hand up because first of all you're being honest and brave, and second of all you're probably aware, whereas a lot of people aren't aware. A lot of the time you are just in a room with no ventilation, and your energy is going to go down. The amount of times I've done face-to-face consults and, you know, a client seems to be flagging, I bombard people with information, so at some point like, can't cope with anymore. I'm like, let's just go outside, you know, straight away. Breath, no problem. Especially the brain and the mind, right? Mental clarity, you can focus again, you can remember again, you're back on track. Really simple. Quality. So there's not a lot to say about that we're not abundantly probably familiar with already. So nature is better than in a city, of course. Ventilation is important. Now, what do we do if we live in a city and opening the window would actually mean letting even more bad quality air in? Anyone got any suggestions? Because a lot of people that's true for. Yes? Anyone have any ideas? Mask. That's good. Ionizer, yeah, thank you. Yeah, an air ionizer is great. Ions are another word for describing qi, the qi energy we talked about before. So the more ions that are in the air, and that's particularly true around the time of thunderstorms or around waterfalls or bodies of natural moving water, that's giving you a lot more qi, it's giving you a lot more energy. Anyone here feel better when they're at the beach? Hey, that's one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why. More qi, more ions. So getting an air ionizer is great. And air ionizers and filters normally go hand in hand, they're like one unit. So that's really good. And there's another thing that I'd really highly suggest, especially if you're in a city, just to give yourself more natural quality air, and that would be, any suggestions? So going to the park is good, but assuming you can't get out, or just the time when you have to be indoors. What did I hear over here, sorry? Exercise. Yeah, I mean, exercise relates to the way we breathe, which we'll go over in a second, but just in terms of the quality of the air that you have. Plants. Yeah, plants, thank you, exactly right. As many plants as possible. And I particularly like ones that I can eat and that don't need watering. So aloe vera is everywhere in my house. I can remember to water them twice a year and they still provide a superfood and constant good quality superfoody ions. So yeah, I love aloe vera. But anything, fresh herbs, wonderful. Yes?
I have a question, because during the winter it's so cold, so we keep all the windows closed and it gets quite hot inside, and like if you open the window then all this freezing cold air comes in, so it's like really hard to keep it fresh. But
that's a great question, thank you. I'm just going to repeat it so the speakers hear it. So what do we do in the winter? Basically when opening a window or having ventilation makes you too cold. Great question. In practice, I would say it's actually better to have a window open just a crack all the time, even though it might make you colder. That's if I had to weigh it up. Okay, even better to improve the quality of your air so you don't have to have it open for as long. There's breathing exercise you can do, which I'm going to talk about in a minute when we talk about whey. And they can oxygenate your body more than several hours of normal breathing would. So that's another way to get around it. You could just open the window for 10 minutes, do your breathing exercises, or do, you know, your jogging or outside, or do, you know, like a short amount of very, very high intensity oxygenation, and then go back in the house with the window closed. But the interesting thing will be, if you do some high intensity oxygenation, you heat yourself up, and then you won't need to have the window closed. So
It's those sleeping hours though as well, where you're lying still, so you're just freezing, and you need the heat on, but yet the air is kind of stuffy, you know?
that's a great question. So if you're sleeping and it's at night and it's really cold outside, what I'd recommend is have 3 duvets, right? Wear 2 sets of pajamas, have a person to share warmth with, and then no problem. And then keep the window open. And put draft exuders around the door so the rest of the house doesn't get cold.
Or a jumper?
A jumper, yeah, several jumpers even. Yeah. And the other thing which I'd suggest is really human beings, even in this kind of climate, should by nature be able to sleep outside if necessary. And in fact, you see some homeless people do. So, you know, the real issue is why am I, and I'm not criticizing you here because I was at the place where I used to have to wear 2 pairs of socks at night in the summer, so I know exactly what you mean, in bed. But why am I in the place where I'm so cold and my circulation's so bad? And the answer to that is really the health of the liver, which is not something that we can really tackle today in any detail. But if you have problems with circulation, especially circulation to your extremities, to your hands and feet, then the issue is that your liver's not healthy. And the other issue is that you're deoxygenated. So both of those things, you tackle both those things, good cleansing for the liver, good breathing for oxygenating your body, you won't be cold anymore, then you'll be able to be warm enough to have a window open. So it's kind of like you get into a negative cycle or downward spiral with ill health, and it's a matter of I'm going to do whatever's necessary to get out of it. And one of them might be I'm going to suffer cold in order to have fresh air, and I'm going to do everything to make sure I'm not too cold. Does that make sense? Yeah. Great, thank you. Great question because it's very relevant. Now talk about the way we breathe. Most people do not breathe very well. Who here is familiar with this concept? A lot of people. Wonderful, great. Is that because you read my article? Okay, right, sure. Something we're already familiar with. Wonderful. Who here already breathes properly all the time?
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes.
There's a particular book to do with the way of breathing, and it would recommend that you take intake no more than, say, 2 seconds of intake of breath and 2 seconds of outtake. I think it's called...
The Butenko method?
Butenko, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what you think about that in relation to how to breathe properly.
So the question is, what do I think of the Butenko method?
Yeah.
If I could sum it up. I don't particularly agree with their way of getting to the right place, but we both agree on what the right place is. And the right place is to get to a point where you are breathing from here and not from here. And when you're doing it in a calm way rather than a strained way. That's the thing that yoga or qigong, all the Butenko method will all agree on. Now with yoga, with pranayama, they'll get you to breathe very fully and very deeply to reset your breathing. I prefer that method. The Butenko method, they try and kind of force you to do things right straight away, which can also work. Either way is fine. The bottom line is breathing from the right place. So when you're a baby, when you're first born, unless you're traumatized by your birth, you will naturally breathe from here. In the womb, you breathe from here because that's the umbilical cord. So let me just demonstrate what it means to breathe from here. So when we breathed out, the belly is in, and then we breathe in. The belly goes out, and we breathe out. And the belly goes in. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now notice how the chest doesn't move at all. Okay? Here's the wrong way to breathe. This is how we're taught to breathe at our best. I mean, most people barely breathe at all. They're just completely strained and cramped in. But if you tell people to take a deep breath, this is generally what they do. Not just the collapse afterwards, that's normally it. So most people are breathing into the wrong place, using a third of their lung capacity at best, and then not breathing out fully. Not breathing out fully. And the not breathing out fully is actually the most crucial and important bit, because it's when you breathe out that your body excretes acids. Carbonic acid and carboxylic acid especially. So if you are not breathing properly, especially if you're not breathing out properly, your body is building up acids. Who here is familiar with the whole acidity is bad, alkalinity is good thing? Yeah, most people, great. So green juices and all that to alkalize you can be helpful to some degree, no doubt about that. They can save lives even in cancer patients and all the rest of it, wonderful. But the root cause of you building up acidity in your body and the inflammation and the candida parasites and blood sugar issues and all the other problems that come from an excess of acidity start with not breathing properly. I've yet to talk with any health expert about this who doesn't understand that or agree with that. I just don't understand why they don't promote it more vigorously. Maybe because you can't sell breath. I don't know. So we really want to learn to breathe again that way. Now, because this is really quick, I'm not going to be able to teach you. I have YouTube videos going through it with you, train you exactly how to do it. My program, The Easy Exhausting Cure, shows you how to do it in detail. It's all on there. Plus, go to any decent yoga teacher, any decent Tai Chi, Qigong teacher, any decent singing teacher, any decent drama teacher, and they'll be able to show you how to breathe properly. So this is something that we want to learn. So the way we breathe is important. Belly breaths. And breathe out slowly. Now, in fact, yeah, let me just teach you one very quick technique because it relates to being present as well, and then I'll answer that question. So what we want to do is every time we feel out of sorts, okay, every time you're angry, upset, frustrated, annoyed, confused, distracted, unclear, trying to remember something you can't, anything, any resistance to the flow of life, what I highly recommend you do is this. Get your back straight, okay. Then breathe into your belly. And if you don't know what that feels like, I highly recommend that you just put your hands on your belly so you can actually feel it going out. Breathe into your belly. And then breathe out again slowly. And then breathe into the belly. And now become aware of your environment. All the people here. Be totally present. And then breathe out slowly. While you're breathing out, just stay completely aware of your environment. Not your head, not your imagination, not your thoughts, just your environment in your body. And then breathe in. And out again. And that will kill pretty much any upset, any distraction. Just that simple. Get back into the present moment, into the sensations in your body, in your literal physical environment, and focus on your breath and focus on bringing your breath and therefore your energy to this place. And you'll bring yourself away from struggle and into awareness. Okay? Who's heard the whole be in the present, be in the now thing in the spiritual world? Most people, wonderful. So anything about Eckhart Tolle's book, which I've heard in that regard, is there's no practical steps, okay? So here's the supplement. Here is the practical step. This is what you literally physically actually do in the moment. Okay, when you feel like the ego has got rampant control. Stop, breath in. Present, breathe out, and you're back in the world. Done. Simple. That's all there is to it.
So can I just ask you to breathe out through your nose?
Definitely, ideally through your nose, yes. Because if you breathe out through your mouth, you tend to breathe out more quickly. So the question was, sorry, do we breathe out through the nose? Absolutely, definitely, yes. And you say you had a question.
That was more or less the same question. Do
you breathe out through your nose?
Technique, should you breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your nose? Or
yeah, always breathe in through your nose. Yeah, always breathe in through your nose, always breathe out through your nose with this basic stuff. There's kind of a more advanced yogic techniques where you might breathe through the mouth for specific purposes, and I highly recommend you do practice those, generally under guidance. But just this very simple one of resetting the breathing mechanism, or this very simple one of just being in the present right now, do it for the nose, definitely. Because it's almost impossible to breathe out slowly enough if you're breathing out through the mouth. Okay? So, on to the next one, spleen, digestion. Now, as we know, you could spend a long time talking about food, and anyone who's been to a lecture here before has probably heard other speakers talking a long time about food. So I'm just going to go through this very, very, very basically. Digestion. So we want to have living foods. Okay? And we want to have easy to digest foods. Are those two always the same? No. That's where a lot of people struggle with the raw food thing, right? I just ate like a 2-litre bowl of kale salad and now I feel like, yeah, it's like no wonder if you're used to eating kind of pre-digested, masticated kind of white flour products that your body's not going to be able to cope with, like a super dense superfood, or it's not going to be able to cope with a very large bowl of very fibrous salad. You know, you need to be kind of clever about this. Living foods, easy to digest foods, wherever there's an overlap, that's great. If you have a problem with digestion, focus more on this. If you have a problem with energy but no problem with digestion, focus more on this, right? Highly nutritious. In fact, I'm tempted to take a detour here, a quick one. Who here would be interested in knowing exactly how to choose the best meal ever, every meal that you have? Okay, detour it is. Okay, so what do I eat now? It's probably like the bane of most people's lives, this question. I'm quite into the self-help motivational world, and what Tony Robbins, one of the top people in that world, says is ask the right question and you will get the right answer. So I'm not going to give you the right answer because very specifically it's going to depend on you as a person, it's going to depend on your situation, it's going to depend on what's available to you. But if you answer this question, you'll always find the best thing for you to have right now. And it's basically a four-part question. How can I eat a meal that is, number one, high in nutrients? I'll go through all these in a minute. 2, low in calories. 3, in the right balance for me. And number 4, and this one's actually the most important, although almost everyone leaves this out, and enjoy the process. Yes. If you answer that question, you know exactly what to eat every time with every meal. High in nutrients. So most of us eat empty calories. Even most raw fooders eat empty calories. You know, if you're buying stuff from Tesco and Sainsbury's and you're having iceberg lettuce and tomato and cucumber, there isn't any nutrients in there. Not really, you know. This is because the agricultural industry worked out a couple of hundred years ago that you can grow plants with only 3 minerals out of the 92. Nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus. That's all you need. The other 89, essential for human health, human energy, human growth, anything other than a debilitated state, you don't need to grow the plant. Okay? Even those things which are grown organically, you know, they may not conform to this to a large degree. So we always want to eat as highly nutritious food as possible. Some foods are higher in nutrition, you know, so hemp, for instance, if it's grown even on bad quality soil, will just get deep enough and get the good nutrients. So that's a good example. And then, of course, even your humble tomato or iceberg lettuce, if it's grown locally by an organic farmer who knows how to nurture and love the soil, is going to be top quality as well. Even better if you can get a local organic biodynamic farmer to grow you goji berries, then you're like, yes, best of both worlds. So high in nutrients. So that's basically going to be foods which are naturally high in nutrients no matter what, and foods which are high in nutrients because you know where they're grown is high quality. The other thing is to take in things which are high in nutrients but don't have any calories. Tonic herbs are an example of that. I love to use tonic herbs, of course, it's one of the things I do, as the basis of soups or stews or smoothies or anything like that, because there's a lot of nutrition, a lot of phytonutrients, a lot of minerals and no calories. I also like mineral supplements for the same reason. I love seaweeds for the same reason. Seaweeds are wild food, very, very high in minerals, especially electrolyte minerals that we need, like magnesium, and yet very low in calories. And the calories they do have are good, like essential sugars, essential proteins. So, you know, as much good quality, and we'll go to that one, low calorie food as possible. So these first two are like the opposite of empty calories. This is the exact opposite of McDonald's. McDonald's is high in calories, low in nutrients, which is why you keep eating it, other than the MSG, which is potent excitotoxin, which kind of damages your brain cells and gives you a drug-like high and makes you want to eat until you get yourself into a stupor. But other than that, it's the it's the low nutrients, high calories. So if you feel like eating, and if you eat too much in your own estimation, is anyone here who doesn't feel like they eat too much at least sometimes? That's so funny. No one. Okay. Everyone eats too much at least some of the time. Most people eat too much most of the time. We could say there's something wrong with us, we're self-destructive, oh God, and beat ourselves up about it. Or we could say, actually, I just need more real nutrients. So I'd say take high nutrient foods, whether it be fresh local biodynamic produce, whether it be seaweeds, whether it be tonic herbs, whether it be mineral supplements that are good quality. Most of them aren't, and I don't have time to go into that now. Use them as the basis of your diet, and then see the other stuff like your salad and your fruit and all the rest of it as a dressing or a garnish to make the food taste good. But I wouldn't base my diet around that. I wouldn't base my diet around foods which are empty calories. Question, yes?
Tonic herbs?
So tonic herbs, as an example, one you've heard of is goji berries. Goji berries. I hope you heard of them. Excellent, okay. They are the things I specialise in. I don't have time to cover them in this talk, but if you go to lionheartherbs.com, there's a 15-minute video of me explaining what they are, where they come from, why you want to have them, etc., etc. And the bottom line is, I guess, very quickly, herbs which are for making you better once you're sick, they're medicinal herbs. 95+% of herbs are medicinal herbs. Medicinal herbs can be dangerous, and you should make sure you have them under supervision. Tonic herbs are those rare herbs which are more like food, in that they're medicinal, in that they make you stronger, they make you better, they make you healthier. They, for instance, boost your immunity or they boost your energy, but they're not making you better in the first place. They're not trying to make you well, sorry. They just increase your innate vitality. So that's the point of tonic herbs. Tonic herbs are part of, in my opinion, every healthy person's daily regime. And that's why they're catching on very big in the Western world now, especially in the raw food world, where we're noticing, people in the raw food world tend to be people who want to excel, really get the very best, and then we're finding that just eating salads and nuts alone isn't enough, and tonic herbs are like the next level of that. Very high nutrition, very high medicinal, immune boosting, pretty much everything boosting properties, but no calories and completely safe. So that's why I really like tonic herbs. And to be honest, I never had any plans to sell tonic herbs. I literally found out no one was selling them. No one knew how to get hold of them outside of America, so I started doing them. So that's tonic herbs, high nutrients, low in calories. So are all wild foods, like your nettle, your dandelion, your cleavers, your sea spinach, etc., your wild garlic, all the things that you can find growing locally. Very high in nutrients, low in calories. So in the right balance for me, now a lot of people get into trouble with that. Should I eat fruit? Should I get most of my calories from fat? Should I be eating animal foods? That's one doing the rounds a lot in the scene at the moment, the raw food scene. And the answer is always, it depends on what's right for you. And it depends where you're at. If your liver is particularly weak, then you probably shouldn't be having animal foods, or a lot of them. You probably shouldn't have a lot of fat. If your spleen is particularly weak and your blood sugar is all over the place, you're hypoglycemic or pre-diabetic or diabetic, you probably shouldn't have sugars or starches, or high glycemic index carbohydrates. If your kidneys are very weak, then you probably shouldn't have a lot of proteins, especially animal proteins. So that's basically all the calorie sources, right? If all three of them are weak, then you need to come and see someone like me and we're working out. But something to be aware of. Nothing is right for everyone. Everyone guru who says this is the right way will always have a certain amount of people who go, yes, thank God, you're the answer, thank you. And then a certain amount of people who have no luck with them and then move on, right? So it's a matter of finding what works for you. And what works for you can change. The people are like, oh, I was a raw vegan for 10 years, but now I'm eating, meat every meal. Fine, if that really does agree with them now, then that's okay. It doesn't mean that you need to start eating meat now when you've just started a cleanse, right? It all depends on where you are at right now. The most important thing, as I've kind of hinted at but not really explained properly, is the balance of macronutrients to feel truly satisfied. Everyone know what macronutrients mean? No, okay, let's clarify that. Everyone still with me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Have to check occasionally. Everyone still present? Okay.
Could I just ask one more quick question?
Yes.
About calories.
Yep.
What would you say to the recommended daily intake that we should that doctors say you should have, like 2,000 calories, whatever it is?
It's a great question. The question is, what would I say to the caloric recommendations of doctors? They're almost irrelevant. It's all about getting the nutrients you need. It's all about getting the nutrients you need in terms of these that we're about to talk about. And then basically you want to have as little as possible within that. So 2,000 calories, it's going to depend so much. And I think doctors admit that. It depends how active you are, it depends on your hormonal levels, it depends on your age, it depends on your weight, it depends on your sex. You know, there's so many variables within that anyway. So I would say it's unhelpful to count calories. And therefore irrelevant. You know, what you're going to be focusing on is how can I feel satisfied, truly satisfied, with as little calories as possible.
It's an
And that's pretty much it.
Different approach. Like to change, it's hard to just switch your mind and think less calories because you're thinking, oh, that's how I live. You know.
It's hard to think about less calories. Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is we are based around, if you tell someone not to do something, our psychology is based around, I want to do it more. So the psychology of denial and restriction always leads to rebellion and defiance. So we're going to completely ignore that, and we're just going to go for, how can I love what I eat and at the same time get as much nutrition as I can without stuffing myself with something I don't need. So it's going from restriction to clever. I go, I'm going to be clever. I'm going to really enjoy myself. I'm going to really enjoy what I eat. I'm just not going to give myself something that actually I don't really enjoy anyway, that makes me feel bad anyway. Do you see what I mean? Rather than I'm going to be good, I'm going to have a salad with no calories, or I'm going to be bad, I'm going to eat like a Happy Meal with 3,000 calories. Because that's what I noticed. I had a friend who's been in this world for 10 years, the raw food world. When I found him a year ago, he was still 20 stone. Still. Despite collaborating with Shazzy and Daniel Vitalis and pretty much everyone in the raw food world. And his struggle, basically, as far as I could see, when it was summed up, was when he was being good, he ate raw food and he'd eat like a little bit. And then when he was being bad, straight to McDonald's, 4 Happy Meals. And when he saw me eat, I used to eat a lot, way too much, really. And he was like, you just proved to me, Elwin, that the amount of calories you eat has got nothing to do with weight. Because here I am, like this. Here, there he was with his little salad. I had this huge plate of probably like 6,000 calories of food. Not that I'm saying it's a good idea, but that's how I was eating at the time. Never put on any weight, you know? So obviously that's to do with metabolism and genetics and stuff like that. But the kind of point that I'm getting to is calories has nothing to do with weight. Weight is all to do with insulin. If you know the basic. And insulin is normally high because of cortisol. And it's also to do with toxicity. Your body holds onto weight because it's holding onto toxicity. And fat buffers toxicity and keeps it safe, keeps it from burning holes in your arteries and causing you serious harm. And it's to do with acidity. The more acidity you have, the more your body, again, holds onto fat to store that acidity. So those are the 3 things you want to look at if you want to lose weight. Reduce acidity, get toxicity out, and balance your insulin levels. Then losing weight is easy. If you don't do any of those, it doesn't matter. You could be on 500 calories a day for 5 years and you still wouldn't lose a pound. And a lot of people can testify to that as a reality. So it's about really finding out what actually works. And that's as far as the digression I'm going to do on weight loss. But yeah, that's my perspective on it. So balance of macronutrients. Let's go back to that quickly. Protein, carbohydrate, fat. If you don't know what is in what, I'm afraid that's something you're going to have to look up on your own. But very, very basically, you know, you need to make sure you get these in every meal you eat, even breakfast. Every meal with calories in, rather. So you can have a green juice in the morning, that's okay. But if you were to start the day with, say, some fruit, unless you happen to be someone who burns just carbohydrates, you're probably then going to be lacking protein, lacking fat. Your insulin's going to go up, and then it's going to go down, and then your blood sugar is going to crash, and then you're going to be an up and down energy cycle for the rest of the day. Just as an example. If you eat a pure fat meal, right, with, I don't know what that might be, like, yeah, bacon and eggs or something like that, pure fat protein meal with no carbohydrate, and you need some carbohydrate, that might make you feel unsatisfied, and then you have to have a Danish like an hour or 2 later. So trying to make sure you have some of each in every meal. And the amount of each, the ratio of each, really depends on you, but at least some of each. If you're the sort of person whose blood sugar is up and down, if you're the sort of person who gets depressed, if you're the sort of person who has issues losing weight, then your blood sugar is almost certainly up and down. Almost certainly, right? And you need to be very aware of having at least some protein and some fat and some fiber in your first meal of the day and every meal after that, otherwise your blood sugar will crash and you will end up eating a cake or a bag of chips or smoking or doing anything to boost your blood sugar, almost compelled against your will. Who here has been compelled against their will to eat something or take something? Oh yes, me too. Once your blood sugar crashes, you can abdicate all responsibility. Like, all bets are off. I'm going to eat that donut and there's nothing, if you try and get in my way, I'm going to hurt you. You know, that's basically where you're at. So you need to make sure you don't get into that position in the first place. And that's what balancing blood sugar is all about. You need the right amount of each of these, and that is going to vary. Yes, sir?
When you say fat, are you talking about unsaturated, or do you think we need some saturated fat as well?
I believe that we need some saturated fat, although I don't believe we need animal fats. I think we can get by just fine on MCTs, coconut oil. That's a great source of saturated fat. I think if you want to go without animal food and it's an issue for you, pregnenolone is a fantastic supplement, which is a coconut oil, what's the word? It's processed from coconut oil, and that gives your body the building block for steroidal hormones, which is one of the reasons why people say you need saturated fat and why you need cholesterol in your diet. So if you want to be a true vegan, go for a decent amount of coconut oil and go for pregnenolone, is my perspective on that, in order to maintain hormonal health.
Avocados too, yeah?
Avocados contain monounsaturated fat mainly, so they're not going to give you a saturated fat source. Yeah, saturated fat in the vegan world of good quality, there's really not a lot. There's coconut butter, cacao butter, there's also palm oil technically. But you know, that's pretty much it. All the nuts, all the seeds, avocados, olives, they're all polyunsaturated or monounsaturated, which are good. In fact, polyunsaturated fats are essential, but they're not saturated fats. Okay, they're a big thing on fats, but again, I'm going to try and dovetail back to my point, whatever that was originally. Okay.
Coconut drinks, okay?
Coconut drinks. Are coconut drinks okay? Are you talking about those very sweet ones?
Yeah,
There's different types of coconut oil, I think. Coconut water. Some of them are pasteurized, and that means that the sugars are heated to a very high level, which means that the sugar bonds break down. And then you may as well be drinking sugar and water, in terms of that it's going to make you cranky a few hours later. You can get good quality raw coconut water, I believe. In England, there's Dr. Martens. I don't know what there is here, and that's, you know, fairly good. But it depends. If you are diabetic or hypoglycemic, I recommend going for a while with very much low sugar, and I'd include coconut water in that. Thank you. Great question. Okay. In the right balance for me, we've explained that, and enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. If we rush, whatever it is you decide you're going to eat in the end. So let's say you ignore all this, right? You're like, no, I don't want seaweed. You know, just give me burger and chips. You know, and well, I might as well have a Coke now with it. You know, because they're not balanced here. Right. Enjoy the process. Enjoy it anyway. You may as well. Right? There is no value ever maybe from a spiritual point of view, but from a biochemical, nutritional, health point of view, there's no value ever about feeling bad about anything you do ever. Anyone argue with me about that? Okay. There's no point. Enjoy whatever it is you do, and that relates to the third energy, which we probably don't have time to do today, but whatever you do in your life, commit to it fully and be present to it. And here's the thing. If you follow my advice, which we'll hopefully get to by the end of this, and you breathe fully and you're present and in the moment, you probably won't be able to eat 3 happy meals. Right? If you commit to really enjoying the process, the way that you can eat 3 happy meals is you shut down your awareness, you shut down any enjoyment, you focus on TV or you focus on emails, you focus on something else, and you're not even thinking about it. If you're fully present and enjoying, a burger tastes so good, you won't have 4 of them. You'll have 1, right? So enjoy the process. So high in nutrients, low in calories, in the right balance for me, and that one can be hard to work out. You might need professional help with that possibly, although really, you know, if you can listen to your own body, awesome. And enjoy the process. Anyone not clear about what they need to ask themselves in order to know what to eat every time now?
Can I ask one question?
Please.
You're saying in the right balance.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me a few examples? Let's say the food in the morning, which would have fats, proteins, and carbs at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall I tell you what I do? Yes. Great. I like to start the day with green juice, and I've decided, like, for years I had low protein, but now I decided to have a bit more protein. So I have a bit of Sun Warrior brown rice protein. I think I saw it for sale out there, like half a scoop, not a lot. in the green juice. So then I've got protein. I've got protein first thing, which stimulates glycogen and not insulin. So straight away it helps the blood sugar. Then after that, I'll tend to go for a big salad with seaweed as the basis. So seaweed, so we get the high mineral thing. Some green leaves, obviously. Get some fresh herbs, like maybe coriander, tarragon, parsley, whatever it might be. Some kind of fat, maybe avocado, maybe olives. Those are normally my favourites, just from a practical point of view. Nuts and seeds don't agree with me. If they agree with you, wonderful, go for it. If I have anything more fancy, like a raw cracker or whatever, great, but certainly not essential. If I had to eat something cooked, which I do these days sometimes, was 100% raw for just over 2 years now, shifted, I would get like one of my tonic tea blends, maybe some medicinal mushrooms as well for really boosting the immune systems, and then make like a mushroom soup out of it. So just like use a lot of herbs, use that for a stock, add a few fresh vegetables, maybe some shiitake mushrooms, maybe some root vegetables for a carbohydrate, and then really enjoy that. So how does that figure into what I was saying? Let's see. The protein we've got for the protein, the fat we're getting from the avocado and the olives, and then the carbohydrate, I'm either going to have some root vegetables in my soup or I'm going to add some root vegetables to my salad. That's the other thing I didn't mention. Root vegetables to me are my favourite source of carbohydrate. Fruits, there's a lot of negative research about fruits and fructose and how it kind of causes problems. There's not negative research about grains and the leptins and how a lot of them are opioid forming, like they numb you on an emotional level, which is why most of us are addicted to grains. There's some bad stuff about pulses as well, though I'll do those sometimes. Pulses like beans, right? Chickpeas, stuff like that. The only thing that no one really has anything bad to say as a carbohydrate source, as far as I've discovered, is root vegetables. And sure enough, my body agrees. It's like, oh yeah, they're nice. I would say, especially if you're from the northern hemisphere, in terms of your ancestry, root vegetables are the only natural source of carbohydrate of any density that you would have had access to for hundreds of thousands of years anyway. Right, think about it. Where are you going to get sweet fruits from? Where were you going to get grains from or pulses from before agriculture for hundreds of thousands of years? The only place that you would really get carbohydrates from is root veg, and that's the thing that agrees with me the best. I tend to find that agrees with most of my clients best. Especially, I noticed a correlation. I've never had a client who has digestive problems who doesn't base their diet on grains. Similarly, I've never had a client who has no digestive problems at all who eats a lot or any grains. Now, I noticed a very clear correlation between the two, so very not keen on grains. Quinoa is like okay, but even then your digestion has to be quite strong, and I find it has to be cooked. So it's not really part of a raw food lifestyle. And then for dessert or pudding, I'd like to go for superfood chocolates that I make myself, no chocolate. A combination of coconut butter, cacao butter for those saturated fats, goji berries for your essential sugars. There's a recipe on the site if I'm going too quickly. And then my superfood powder, which is made out of 25 superfoods and super herbs, including carob, mesquite, and astragalus, and cat's claw, and paw d'arco, and all sorts of just wonderful, nutrient-dense, low-calorie superfoods. And then I know I've got all my superfoods covered, because after having green smoothies for like a year and a half, I don't want that anymore. It's like, how am I going to get all these good quality superfoods and herbs into me, and actually enjoy the process? Remember, going back to that one. Superfood chocolates, yes, that's the way. Okay, a few squares of those after a meal, done. And that's high in protein, high in fat, and high in essential sugars, so it actually contains all three. So that's basically it. Green juice for alkalinity, salad for like fiber and nutrient density and a little bit of fat, and then superfood chocolates actually for the calorie source. And that works really well for me. And it works well for all my clients who try it as well. I think the exceptions, yeah. So is that a good example?
Not sure, but maybe. If it works, probably.
It works for me. For you, what could it be? It could be like eggs and sweet potato and spinach. Do you eat cooked food or raw food?
Raw food.
Just raw food. The struggle with raw food is to get your carbohydrates. That's really the struggle with it. And that's why I ended up eating some cooked food. You can obviously eat raw root vegetables, but a lot of people have struggled to digest them. You can eat sprouted grains, a lot of people struggle to digest them. You can eat fruits, but a lot of people in this world have problems with candida and all the rest of it. How do you do a fruit, sir?
Well, that's okay.
Okay, well then you could go for exactly what I said, high nutrient food, and then add fruits for the carbs. Done. As your dessert. Like, porridge is a grain, and it's also a gluten grain, which means it's high in opioids. So it's not the best thing ever. However, there are a lot worse things, like toast, so it's all a balance.
And if you put porridge with toast, is that it?
That's fine, no. When people like oats, I always say get oat groats, because oats, rolled oats are always rancid. That's one of the list of things that's wrong with them. Get oat groats, soak them overnight, then cook them. If you eat cooked food, then at least you're going to have some real nutrition, even if you are having some leptins and some opioids and some other issues that come with eating grains.
What about quinoa flakes? Like?
What about what flakes, sir? Quinoa. What about quinoa flakes? Probably the best of all the grains. Yeah. So great suggestions as an alternative to porridge. Thank you.
What are leptins and what's the problem with them?
Leptins are enzyme inhibitors, and the problem with them is that they stop your body from digesting food properly, and they're particularly a drain on the energy of the liver. My pleasure. Okay, I'm going to try and get back to the point. How are we doing for time? Anyone?
What time is it? Just 5:05.
So I'm already almost at my limit. Brilliant. I knew this would happen. Okay, I'm going to do a very quick recap then. The way we eat, so we already kind of talked about this. Enjoy it. What else? Chew slowly. We've already talked about this one as well. Be present to what you're eating, no matter what it is. And then lastly, I would say drink before. So don't drink water after a meal or during a meal, because it stops your body from being able to digest it properly. And when your body has undigested food in it, that produces a massive chain reaction of other problems, which I could go into if we had more time. So let's go for now. There's two other types of energy, and guess what? I haven't got any time to tell you about them. I do, but I wanted to do a recap as well. Okay, let's do very quickly. Adaptive energy. Now, anyone who wants to know more about this, go to my website, easyexhaustioncure.com. Now, adaptive energy, we could also call that reserve energy. Put reserve in brackets. Same thing. The Chinese call that Jing or Qing Qi. And we call it stress, adrenal energy, sexual energy, the energy of personal magnetism, so I'm going to condense this into 5 minutes. Okay, bearing in mind I have an 8-hour program on the subject, I'm going to do my best. We all have a basic level of reserve energy, and this is focused in what the Chinese call the kidneys and the reproductive organs. Okay. Now, everyone has a different amount, and that depends largely on how much your parents gave you. So this is where life is just not fair, right? Anyone notice that their friends or family can get away with doing a lot more than they can? It's, God damn it, if I did that, I'd be on the floor, and they're up at 6 in the morning playing rugby. Not fair. But that's just the way it is, right? So everyone has different levels of this reserve energy. Some people have more, some people have less. The good thing about having less is that you have to learn about this stuff earlier. And you have to learn to look after yourself earlier. While if your reserve energy is high, it may not hit you until you're in your mid-50s, 60s. And generally by that time, you are so ingrained in your habits, you're never going to change. Which is why 9 out of 10 people who get told by a doctor that they're going to die unless they follow the recommendations after like a heart attack or a cancer scare or something like that, do not change, okay? Because their reserve energy is so low, their adaptive energy is so low, and it's been such a long time that they've been in that habit that they're not going to shift. So, you know, don't envy those who have more energy than you, understand them and support them. Adaptive energy, okay. So how does adaptive energy get used up? The main thing that it gets used up by is digestion, reproduction. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this in a convent type thing, but for men it gets used up by ejaculation. For women it gets used up by pregnancy and childbirth. So men tend to lose it slowly over time, women lose big chunks of it all at once. And the main thing of all is stress. Stress could be mental stress, could be physical stress, PSY, physical. Or it could be, that's not right, is it? Or maybe it is. It could be psychological. So in other words, it could be all in your head. So whatever it is, it's draining you of your reserves of energy. The more that your energy reserves are drained, the more that you're going to struggle to adapt. So this gets into a vicious circle. Stress is basically anything. We had a little discussion last night and we said, isn't stress a good thing sometimes? Doesn't it motivate you to exceed and excel and do things and that? That's true, right? But it all depends on your level of adaptive energy. If you're able to adapt to the challenges and the new situations that life throws at you, then you excel. But if your adaptive energy is low, if your reserves are low, then you're going to have a problem and you're going to feel more drained. And generally people are either in a cycle of being in the flow where the more life throws at them, the more they excel and exceed and do well, or they're in this cycle where the more life throws at them, the more they're ground down and worn down. And it's particularly happy to get from one cycle to the other. And that's why I specialize in, helping those people who push themselves way too hard and as a result of that run out of this energy early and need some help getting back onto the right cycle again. Okay? One of the main stresses as well, which I didn't mention, is poison. And let me give you an example of that. We wake up in the morning, our everyday energy is low. Whereas our everyday energy is low. We don't breathe properly, we're not eating well, we're not balancing our blood sugar, everyday energy is low. So what does the body do? It has to dip into the reserves, right? Our limited, when they run out, you die kind of reserves, okay? How do we do that? Sometimes we create a stress. So we start, oh my God, if I don't get that deadline finished and this person's going to have a go at me, da, 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 and then we stress ourselves and we make ourselves get out of bed and do what needs to be done. Sometimes we poison ourselves. We have some coffee or some tea or a cigarette or perhaps even a few of us an alcoholic drink first thing in the morning, and we poison ourselves. Now what happens when you poison the body? What does it do?
It's under stress.
It puts it under stress, exactly, sir. And it creates an adrenal response. Your body releases adrenaline, it releases noradrenaline, it releases dopamine, it releases cortisol, and you feel good. You feel great, you feel alive, you feel awake, you feel alert, you feel present, you feel wonderful. You've just poisoned yourself and you feel on top of the world and ready to face the day. That's okay occasionally, right? To just get through something that has to be done in special occasions. And that's what it's there for. So that if for whatever reason, like a saber-toothed tiger was chasing you and you had to get out of the tree just like that, you had some reserves. Let's say you haven't eaten for 3 days, right? What were you supposed to do? You have reserves for that reason. The problem is most people, we use our reserves as if they are unlimited, and in fact, we don't even understand we're using our reserves a lot of the time. I know I didn't. I was just smoking 20 cigarettes a day, having 20 shots of espresso a day, you know, whatever it took to just get through the next half an hour as a head chef in a busy restaurant, and just poisoning myself constantly and consistently and wondering why I was feeling so bad and my energy was getting so low. This is how 98% of people in the Western world are trained to live our lives. At best, we don't poison ourselves with stimulants, we poison ourselves with sugar, normally. You know, high starch or high glycemic index sugars, that's the best. Another thing adrenal activity does is it releases blood sugar from storage in your liver and muscles into your system. And blood sugar, as another of my talks I'm sure will be about, is basically, you know, the energy that we actually use to get through the moment. Okay, so most of us create stress in order to just get through the day because we don't have enough everyday energy, which is why when I knew there wasn't enough time to cover everything with you guys today, I was like, let's teach them about everyday energy. Because if you get your everyday energy up first, then a lot of the time that's fine. Okay? If you're particularly depleted, if you or anyone else you know suffer from exhaustion or chronic fatigue, or if that isn't enough basically, then we need to look at getting your reserves back up again. If you get overwhelmed easily, if you get stressed very easily, if you easily think like things are too much to cope with, then we need to look at building that back up. And how do we do that in a nutshell? In 2 minutes. I'm demonstrating my adaptive energy here by adapting. Okay, I like to call it the BMW formula. So, adaptive energy up. Breathe. Already talked about that. Minerals. especially the electrolytes. We've already talked about that when we've talked about nutrient density, but especially magnesium, sodium, good sodium, not McDonald's sodium, and potassium, and water. And with that we want true hydration, which again I could do a whole thing about, and if you look at any of my sites or YouTube or whatever, I have a lot to say about it. So, how can I explain this in the most easy way possible? When you have a severe stress or trauma, which is one of the main things that take the adaptive energy down, all of these go down. Okay, so literally, you lose water, right? You start to sweat, you pee more frequently, your body is literally dehydrating. It's also demineralizing. You're sweating out and excreting all your minerals, especially magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And your breathing mechanism shuts down. You stop breathing fully. You stop breathing from the diaphragm if you ever did before, and your diaphragm is more tense, it's more withheld, it's more constricted because you're in a defensive posture, because you're afraid. And for anyone here who's not clear about that, stress, fear, and anxiety are exactly the same thing from a biochemical point of view. They're adrenal activity, that's it. So, you know, people don't like to say, I'm afraid, you know, so we say, I'm stressed. But, you know, you're scared that you can't cope with what life's throwing at you, right? I was always scared I couldn't cope with what life is throwing at me. So, you know, when you get into that state of fear or stress or anxiety, whatever you want to call it, water goes out, minerals go out, and we stop breathing. So the most simple way, and I have more complex ways, you know, in my full program, is make yourself breathe again, get the minerals back in, and get true hydration, water back in. That's as simple as I could possibly lay it out. Breathing, we've talked about. Minerals, I really believe in using ionic angstrom minerals because they're the same type that you find in plants. Not tablets. Any tablets or capsules that you buy with minerals in are generally a waste of time and money. If you know you have someone well-meaning who's recommending them to you, they probably just aren't aware that there's actually a better way now, which is ionic angstrom liquid minerals, which is in a form significantly smaller than a cell, so your body can actually use it. Whereas a colloidal mineral, which is what you find in any capsules or tablets, is a colloid is like that compared to a cell is like that. So your body has to break it down massively, it has to ionize it, has to add energy to it. Most of the time, it's a waste of time. So if you really want to reverse a severe energy depleted state, you need real minerals. And you also get those, of course, from foods, superfoods, seaweeds, and tonic herbs. And water, real hydration. Now I could do a big thing about that, but I won't. But let me just say, I believe true hydration, especially if you're very dehydrated, has to come from real spring water. While alkaline water or ionic water or filtered water or distilled water can be useful to help people to detoxify or to remove toxins from the body, it's not useful to get the cells to hydrate. To get the cells to hydrate, you need real hydrating spring water and you need real electrolyte minerals. And then the last type of energy, I call this a different thing every time. Today I'm going to call it character energy. Who here has ever met someone who never follows through on what they say they're going to do, often doesn't mean what they say, feels like they can do whatever they want, has no sense of responsibility, has no sense of integrity, has no sense that, you know, what they say actually matters, has no interest in contributing to the world around them, has no interest in their own personal growth? Anyone? We all do, right? Okay. So, who here judges these people harshly? From a Taoist point of view, very interesting, very helpful to not be judgmental as well. What we would say is these people, rather than being, you know, of the devil or wrong or bad or no good, they are low in a certain type of energy. Now, from a Taoist point of view, you don't start with any character energy. So when you're a baby, you have no sense of integrity. I mean, who here is a mother and has experienced that? This is something that we have to teach humans, right? It's something that we have to learn. Some people never develop a sense of integrity. Some people never develop a sense of perspective. Some people never develop a sense of character, okay? But the way Taoists look at it, it's an energy which you can actually increase as well as reduce. And it's very simple, and I've done a whole talk about this. I did it last week, it's on YouTube. But the bottom line of it is to say yes to life, to embrace life, which relates to the heart. The heart likes to say yes. Yes. Say yes to the right things. Big capital letters, exclamation mark, yes. And then the liver likes to say no. Can anyone give me an example of when saying no is a good idea? Anyone? When saying no is a good idea? Would you like another cream cake? Do you want to take a hit of my crack pipe? Would you like to invest in my my business of building a bridge between Australia and the Fiji Islands? You know, no, right? So people who lack this energy tend to either have problems saying yes and embracing life and embracing the moment, and embracing other people, or they have a problem saying no to things, having boundaries, having clear, that's not acceptable, that's not right, that's not good enough, whatever it might be. Someone who's developed the ability to do both of those things tends to be a person who has high integrity, tends to be in a position of leadership, tends to be in a position of authority. Everyone else listens to them, respects them, likes them, follows their lead, right? So to have high character energy, I like to call it perspective as well. Talk about why that is very quickly. Or integrity. Now, can anyone see how this relates to the other two? How it's really, really, really crucial? Anyone want to explain? Go on, have a go. Be brave.
If you go down one or other of the routes, you've destabilised the other two immediately.
If you went down, if you went down trying to increase adaptive energy or trying to increase everyday energy?
No? I mean, if you're a complete yes man or a complete no man,
Yep.
there's no way the other two are going to stay in balance.
Thank you very much for that. So if you're a complete yes man or if you're a complete no man, then none of it's going to stay in balance. You're absolutely right, sir. And that's why we have to focus on doing both appropriately. How do we do that? It gets very complicated if you let it be, but I actually like to just use this as a very simple question, because again, we want to ask a question in terms of how to say, what to say yes to and what to say no to. The bottom line is always this question to me. Does this serve my ultimate life purpose? Now, you don't actually have to know my ultimate life purpose is to, you know, do this or achieve this or save this many people or help this many people, whatever. That could just be a feeling. Does this serve my ultimate life purpose? I don't know what my life purpose is yet, but I know that getting involved with you doesn't do it, you know? Or eating that burger ultimately is not going to bring me to a better place. Maybe it would. Maybe someone offers you a burger and this is the person who's going to be the connection that opens up your world to the thing that you need. So maybe eating that burger might serve your ultimate life purpose. You need to rely on your intuition on that rather than a set of dogmatic rules. Okay, but generally it's pretty obvious and pretty easy. Does it serve my ultimate life purpose to be low in energy? Does it serve my ultimate life purpose to poison myself, to sabotage myself, to dismiss and push away that which heals and helps and improves my growth and improves my ability to contribute? You know, it becomes really obvious if you ask that question with every decision. It becomes very obvious and very easy. And that's where perspective comes in. I've been studying a lot about success recently, and one of the things that comes up a lot is this direct correlation between those, the longer term your perspective is, the more likely you are to be successful in any area. Any area. I can see a few nods of recognition here. Those who are very, very, very unsuccessful with money tend to have a perspective that lasts about 2 minutes. Like, how will it feel to have that right now? That's a perfect way to get to being broke or bankrupt, you know? If you're like, how is that going to affect my financial future 10 years from now? Then you know you're going to get to the right place. And it's the same with health, right? If you're like, shall I eat that cake? Question mark, right? Someone's just offered me a cake. How's it going to make me feel for the next 2 minutes? Yes, I'm going to do it. That's the answer. How is it going to make me feel for the next 2 hours? Probably still, yes, I'm going to do it. How's it going to make me feel the next morning? It's probably going to be, no, thanks, I don't want it. How's it going to make me feel a year from now if I say yes to cake every time it's offered to me? Oh my God, I definitely don't want it. And how is it going to serve my ultimate life purpose to eat cake whenever I feel like it? It's actually going to do anything from not help it to ruin it For some people, it ruins it. You know, if you're 10 stone overweight, like my friend is, and he feels like he can't perform because of that, or, you know, if you're got diabetes and therefore you can't get medical insurance to be a pilot, if that you think that's your true purpose in life, whatever it is, you know, that's going to ruin your chances. So then it becomes very serious and very important whether you choose to eat that piece of cake. So that's where the perspective comes in. And then it's just the integrity to say, if you said yes, then do it. And if you said no, then stick to that no. And with all this, oh, I'll tell you what comes with it. Life becomes so simple. So simple. Lots of recognition here. Anyone here know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's fantastic. Clarity, right? Now, here's where this relates. You can know all the stuff I just talked about, and you can know like way, way, way more than this. You could have a degree in advanced biomolecular nutrition and da-da-da, and like a lot of my clients do, right? Why do they come to me anyway? Because without this, it's just words.
Someone said that you can't really say yes unless you have the freedom to say no.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Someone says you can't say yes until you have the freedom to say no too.
And vice versa.
Absolutely. So until you have the ability to do both and do it in an appropriate way, you're not going to be able to follow through. You're going to say, okay, Elwin said I should drink more water. Elwin said I should eat more nutrient-dense food. Elwin said I should breathe better. Right? Or whatever. Brian Clement last week said I should eat more sprouts. Whatever it might be, right? Great, I'm going to do it. And then you don't do it. And then you don't feel any better. Or you do it, but then after a week or two you kind of forget. Or you lose interest. Or you get bored. Or you get distracted by the new, latest thing. Then it's not going to work. You're not giving anything a chance. So this is the thing. To say, right, you know, for the next 6 months, I'm going to, before I eat anything, before I drink anything else in the morning, I'm going to drink a litre of water. Who here is not capable of doing that? Not capable of drinking a litre of water, sir? Why not?
In the morning, no.
Why not?
I don't know.
Have you tried it?
I tried
Have you tried it with fresh spring water, sir?
half a litre.
Have you tried with a litre of fresh spring water? Okay, then you don't know if you can do it because you haven't tried it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Everyone can do that. Even people who very much resist drinking water, thank you for that, because some people do. Ironically, the more dehydrated you are, the more that you don't want to drink water. So you've just isolated yourself to me as the person who most needs to drink a litre of water out of this whole room, and just being brave enough to put your hand up, thank you. The more dehydrated you are, the less you want to drink water. Everyone could drink water. Everyone would benefit from having at least a litre of water first thing in the morning. Everyone would. It would help you to cleanse, it would help you to hydrate, it would help all your cells to communicate better with each other. Every part of your life would improve if you were more hydrated and more cleansed, which is what something as simple as that would do. The only thing stopping you, perhaps I haven't talked enough about the benefits of it, and that's fine, but you know, the only thing stopping you, assuming you understand it's a good idea, is just a lack of this ability to consistently follow through.
If you have, if you take say a pint and a quarter of green juice, would you need to have a pint or a litre of spring water beforehand as well, or would that?
Great question. So if you're having green juice, do you need water as well?
You need a litre of spring water.
Okay, do you need as much water?
Yeah.
If you're having green juice, do you need as much water?
Yeah.
Yes. My pleasure. Green juice is nutritional. It is hydrating to some degree, but there's a very good reason why you get very dehydrated if you only have it. And that's because it's not truly hydrating. Now, it depends what position you're in. If you're one of those super cool people with high character energy, high adaptive energy, you're really breathing well, you're living in nature, you can actually get by with very, very little water. Because what uses up water? Eating too much, reproduction, all different types of stress. Okay, so it does depend a lot, and it depends on your size, and it depends on various other things. Put it this way, the process of aging is the process of dehydration. You start off about 90% water, you end up about 55% water. If you look at someone aging, it's basically them shriveling up and dehydrating from a physical point of view. So there's never a reason to not rehydrate. And some people just go straight through them, and they say, there's no point, just go straight through me. I say, first of all, you need to use real fresh spring water, then it won't go straight through you, first of all. But even if it does go straight through you, let's just say you decide to just have filtered water or tap water or something, it's not going straight through you. Because if you look at it, you're not going to want to drink what comes out the other end as much as you're going to want to drink what you had in the first place. So by definition, some bad stuff has gone with the water, right? Anyone doesn't believe me? Just drink it. So you've got some bad stuff out, if nothing else. Even if it's not hydrating you, at least it's flushed stuff through. At least it's detoxified you. So there's some definite benefit always. The more water, the better. My friend Philip McCluskey, anyone here heard of Philip McCluskey? The guy who lost over 200 pounds doing a raw food diet. I spoke to him about this. You know, he's in love with spring water and all the rest of the stuff as I am. He said that when he was in the height of his detox and losing weight, he was drinking over 2 gallons a day. I have once drunk over 1 gallon between going to bed at night and waking up in the morning during a cleanse. Like waking up, drink, back to sleep again. Most people massively underestimate the amount that they should drink. Water. Findaspring.com. Run by Daniel Vitalis, a good proponent of spring water. I promise I'll get to you. And an ordnance survey map will tell you all the springs in your local area. Big S, little p, blue letters, spring. Go and have a look around. If you can't find one on findaspring.com, find one, check it in the way it recommends in findaspring.com, then post it to findaspring.com so that other people will be able to find it. Join the community of people who are getting into spring water. This is really big already in America and the US and Canada. There's a queue of people waiting for spring water in Long Island, New York. It's awesome. In Canada, there was like a big area of like 2 platforms where you could collect the water and little things showing that it's just been tested recently. And there was like floodlights, so you could collect water, spring water at 4 a.m. You know, it's like totally organized. Over here, we're a little bit behind with the whole spring water thing. It's like raw food was, you know, it's taken a while to filter down here. So is the spring water thing. Get on board now. You know, anyone here who's a property owner or a property developer or whatever, buy a place with a spring. At the moment, currently in the US, spring water is 4 times the price of petrol. 4 times the price of petrol. So if you own a spring, you have something that's more valuable than an oil field right now. You just haven't learned how to leverage that yet or exploit it. So ideally, don't exploit it. Share it. Let people know. In this community, I highly recommend. A lot of places I went to in America again, they were like, there would be someone who went to go and get spring water for everyone who didn't drive or who was too old or too infirm or too busy. And they were just charged for that service. So what I always say is if you don't have time, energy or inclination or a car to go and get your own spring water, get someone else to do it. Filtered water. There's nothing that any human being can do to water that the earth can't do 1,000,000 times better. That would be my bottom line on it. Any example you could throw at me. There's nothing that a human being can do to water that the earth can't do 1,000,000 times better. Always better.
What about the nitrates or the stuff that comes in from farming that seeps into the spring?
You need to make sure it's good quality.
You have to test it.
You need to make sure it gets good quality, and that's what resources like findaspring.com are for. They'll tell you what's good, where it's been analysed, and where to get it from. Okay, I think I'm going to sum up. We've gone over the 3 basic types of energy. We've seen if you want to increase your adaptive energy, if you want to increase your everyday energy, you need to also work on your integrity, asking yourself, does this serve my ultimate purpose? Saying yes to that which your heart says yes to, saying no to that which your gut or your liver say no to. Increase your water, increase your minerals with highly mineralized food and ionic calcium minerals. Breathe well. Breathe good quality air. And is there anything I've forgotten? Eat well and eat good quality foods. Sorry, what was that?
It's a good question for the end.
Yes.
Is it ever too late
Thank you. Is it ever too late for what?
to get it all? You know, to start.
Oh, okay. Great question. Is it ever too late to turn everything around? The only limiting factor can be that adaptive energy. You can always get more everyday energy. That literally changes by the moment. You can always build up your integrity or your character energy, even if you're over 100 years old. The only issue is adaptive energy. But let's put it this way. When your adaptive energy is at absolute 0, you are dead. So if you are still alive, if there's still a heartbeat, if there's still brain signals, if there's still some cardiac activity going on, then you have some adaptive energy and you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, even though it's more difficult. And no one can tell you it's just as easy for you if you're 90 as it was for me at the age of 26 learning to do this, okay? I'm not saying that to you. But is it possible? Yeah. My oldest clients are in their mid-70s and they've made significant shifts, increasing their own energy in all of these areas. So from my experience, yeah, no matter what, it's never too late. Is it too late to be optimally healthy? Is it too late to run marathons? Is it too late to, climb mountains? Yeah, maybe. But is it too late to be the best you can be, no matter what? No. For instance, if someone doesn't have legs, they're not going to climb mountains, right? Huh?
There's amazing stories about people who do.
Okay, but then they've got good levels of energy. But not everyone has good levels of energy too.
Yeah.
Okay, so some people...
One question. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Are we allowed any more questions?
Yeah.
All right, 2 more questions. Yes.
About marathons and that. For somebody who wants to do, you know, who's a lot of exercise and needs foods.
Yes.
What would you recommend in terms of food for people who are doing high energy stuff like athletes?
Great question. Food for active people. I'd say number 1, don't concentrate on food. Number 1, don't concentrate on food. Concentrate on breathing well, concentrate on staying hydrated, and concentrate on getting adequate amounts of electrolytes. That would be the first thing. And then it really depends. I would say ideally you would get your body to get used to burning protein and fat as fuel, especially if what you're doing is endurance like marathons. Because if you're doing endurance and your body is used to glycation, which is burning sugar as a fuel, your energy will not be sustainable. So I'd say train your body to learn to burn protein and fat as its fundamental fuel. If you have any issues with your liver, you need to get your liver healthy first before you can do that. And then train your body to use protein and fat as their primary fuel, have loads and loads of greens in order to alkalize you, breathe in a way and have alkaline minerals in order to alkalize you. That's the way forward. Have you heard of a man called Stu Middleman? Stu Mittelman, he ran 3 marathons a day for 10 consecutive days, ran 21 hours a day, 3 hours sleep, and he did that using exactly that method that I just described.
Breathing, electrolytes and protein and fat as food intake.
Exactly. And hydration. Last question.
I want to go back to page 2. It's I just want to say
this one?
I'm not promoting any kind of diet. I like food, and I'm just saying 20% of our energy goes from digestion food.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking, why do we eat?
Great question. Okay, so if you can get all your energy from somewhere other than food, which is the essence of Qigong. Qigong means qi cultivation, energy cultivation, and they say you can cultivate energy from the earth, from the stars, from the sunlight, from the air, from communing with plants, animals, all the rest of it. If you can get energy from everywhere, why do you have to eat? Basically, right? The bottom line, is that to do that, to learn to cultivate energy in that way, requires a tremendous amount of time, energy, focus, and discipline. Most people are too caught up with the engagements of survival and reproduction to ever consider dedicating that much time and focus to any pursuit, let alone a pursuit which seems as esoteric, bizarre, and unachievable as not needing to eat anymore. So that's pretty much the answer to that question as I would see it. Is it a worthwhile pursuit? Absolutely. Are most people ever going to undertake that? No. Not in the world that we're currently in. So I always like to look at things as they are, not as I wish they were, or not as I think they should be. And the world is the way it is. So being that everything is the way it is, my focus is on let's make it better, considering that everything is the way it is. Not let's get everyone to be perfect immortals who just get energy from breathing, because it's not going to happen. Could happen one day, but it won't get there by us making anyone wrong for the way that they choose to live their lives. It's only going to happen by being an example of what's possible and helping people step by step get from where they are, which you totally accept, understand, and acknowledge, to where they want to be. And when they get to where they want to be, maybe they'll have a new goal of where they want to be. So someone who starts off being overweight or underweight, the thing I hear most from men, whatever it might be, just help them to get where they want to go. And then when the person's got to where they want to go, then they'll have a new goal about where they want to be. And hopefully, ultimately, the goal for all of us is, how can I make the world a better place? Right? And maybe that making the world a better place might be through not eating any food, or it might be through a myriad other things, whatever it is that resonates with you. So I'd say it's really not about judging or shoulding anything or the way that things are. It's really about totally accepting things as they are, saying yes to life as it is, that thing again, and then saying within that, what am I going to say no to, and how am I going to be a leader in that, how am I going to best serve, and what do people want to achieve, and how can I help them get there? Thank you very much.